Maybe said, I want to
It's better talk.
It's an hour.
All right, the time is 7 p.m. I will go ahead and call this meeting to order. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Counselor Irvin?
Here.
Counselor Height? Here. Counselor Lammerman?
Here.
Counselor Merriday?
Here.
Counselor Settlemeyer? Counselor Wilson?
Here.
Mayor Soulsby?
Here, all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Items to be added to the agenda, there are none. We have a special presentation tonight. Police accreditation and annual report. Police Chief Corey Chase.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, we're going to talk about the accreditation process, and I have a report to hand out to all of you, so you have a copy of our accreditation report. And then we also have a guest with us tonight, Scott Hayes, who is the director of the Northwest Accreditation Alliance. So I'll hand out the report, and then we'll let Scott introduce himself and talk a little bit about the Northwest Accreditation Alliance. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and introduce Scott Hayes. He's joining us remotely tonight, and he is the director of the Northwest Accreditation Alliance. So take it away, Scott.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that everybody can hear me okay. All right, super. Good evening, counselors and members of the community. As introduced, I'm Scott Hayes. I'm the executive director for the Northwest Accreditation Alliance. I appreciate the opportunity to address the council and present the Cottage Grove Police Department with its first award of accreditation under the leadership of Chief Corey Chase. Law enforcement is experiencing a changed society with increased demands for police accountability and transparency. As in our past, our profession must face these challenges and work with our communities to address their concerns. Accreditation is one step towards building community trust. The Northwest Accreditation Alliance Board is comprised of members from the Oregon Association of Chiefs of Police, the Oregon State Sheriff's Association, and the Association of Public Safety Communications Officials. And we provide accreditation services for 117 law enforcement agency and communication centers. Oregon, accreditation goals are straightforward. They are there to support continued improvement of law enforcement services, establish best practices through professional standards, to promote agency accountability and transparency, and enhance overall operational management. For the Cottage Grove Police Department to become accredited, it had to adhere to 110 law enforcement standards. Compliance is generally expressed through policies and procedures and adherence to Oregon state law, the Oregon Administrative Code, constitutional provisions, and county and city policy. Our standards are established based on best practice nationally and through changes in federal and Oregon law. In addition to meeting each of the 110 standards, the agency must also demonstrate compliance by following established policies and current best practices. Then reaccreditation occurs every 3 years. This is truly a monumental step for any agency to be evaluated by an independent outside organization and have its policies and practices scrutinized. I am aware that several staff members were involved in the process, but I would like to acknowledge Accreditation Manager Brooke Crow and the Chief for their diligent work in preparing the agency for the assessment review. So Chief Chase and City Council, on behalf of the Northwest Accreditation Alliance 24-member board, I would congratulate you on receiving your first award of accreditation.
All right. Thank you, Scott. Mayor, council. Yeah, I just want to add a little bit to that. This was an extremely challenging and difficult process. It's not easy to do this. And in Oregon, there's some agencies are required to do this under Oregon law. And that's based on the size of the department. Some of them are required to do it sooner than others, but the size of our department is one it's not a requirement for us to do this under state law. We took this on as a challenge and an opportunity to do this voluntarily, not because we had to, but because this is something that we felt was right for our police department and we felt was right for our community, to be able to show that that we're not just talking about some of the things that we wanted to do or some of the things that we were doing, but we were going to kind of walk the walk. So a lot of work went into this. And as Scott said, you know, Brooke Crow was our accreditation manager. So there's a lot of work that goes into the role of accreditation manager, and she dedicated a lot of her time. This wasn't something that was in her normal job duties when we took this on. So this was all in addition to, and as with everything that she does, she kind of tackled this and did a phenomenal job. So a huge thank you to her and her support throughout all of this, because we wouldn't have been able to do this without her kind of taking the reins and helping to manage this. The stuff that I did behind the scenes was really, you know, a lot of the policy work and updating policies and things like that, but really the day-to-day in this. And it took us almost 10 months to do this from the time we started our self-assessment until we finished it. So it was almost something that we worked on just about every single day. So in addition to everything else that we had going on in the police department. So huge thank you to Brooke for that. If there's any questions about this process for either myself or Mr. Hayes, we'd be happy to take any questions you might have.
Any questions? We want to share our gratitude for you guys taking this on. And as you said, it's not a requirement, but it speaks volumes for what you are doing moving forward in Cottage Grove and keeping that level of professionalism. And we thank you for that.
Thank you, Mayor. All right. Well, thank you, Scott, for joining us tonight. Appreciate it. And thank you for your help and support through this process as well. And to your staff there at the Northwest Accreditation Alliance. Greatly appreciated.
Thank you, and have a good night.
Mayor and Council, I'd like to take just a moment to get Chief's Chase photograph with Brooke and Captain next to the certificate of accreditation. Yeah. Would you like to join him as well? Yeah, thank you.
All right. So again, Mayor, Council, the second part of this presentation tonight is the presentation of our 2025 annual report. And so the report in front of you is 35 pages. I've kind of condensed that down tonight with our presentation. I think we have about 13 or 14 slides, but there's a lot of information and detail in this annual report. And so I wanted to kind of condense this down and hit some of the highlights in this presentation and then allow some opportunity for some discussion and some questions at the end of this. So we can go ahead and start with the first slide here. So when we met last year, we had our retreat with the council and we came up with what the council's goals were going to be. And so one of the things that I want to highlight is that we as the staff and employees of the city, we're looking at those council goals and figuring out how the work that we do is matching with what the goals are of the council. So the things that we looked at, one of the council goals is a safe and thriving community. And so, the accreditation process was a big task for us. And I think that was one of the things that ultimately fits into that category of creating, this safe and thriving community by making sure that our policies and procedures and the way we conduct business is up to industry standard, not just at a state level, but at a regional and national level as well. So again, that was a huge accomplishment for us. So along those lines as well, trying to kind of rebuild back the staffing in this police department over the last couple of years. And in 2025, we took some big steps forward. So one of the things that we haven't had since I've been here is this first line supervision. And we were able to fill our 3 sergeant positions and really not just fill those positions, but create a path of career development and training and mentorship for those first line supervisors. So each one of them, as they were promoted into that position or as we brought them on, they have kind of a training syllabus that I've created for them that kind of checks some boxes as we go through that to make sure that they're getting the training that they need, informally through mentorship with myself or with Captain Passadori, and also some formal training as well. So, and we've invested in making sure that we're providing them with proper leadership guidance and mentorship along the way. So a huge accomplishment for us in doing that. And the three supervisors are doing a really good job for us right now. And I'm really happy with the results that we're getting so far. So, and it's kind of fun for me as the chief to be able to share kind of some of my experiences and what to do and what not to do. Some of those things that I remember when I was a new sergeant. So it's been a really positive thing for our department. Our FBI task force, one of the things that we talked about when I first got here was, we were kind of hearing rumblings of, the potential for human trafficking and child exploitation, specifically going on in Cottage Grove. And we were seeing some reports of that coming in. We were investigating some of those things. And one of the things that I explored was the opportunity for us to partner with our federal agency, with the FBI, to work on some of those cases and to have some support where there's a lot more resources than most local law enforcement agencies, especially smaller agencies, have. So we were able to partner with them, and we are part of their child exploitation and human trafficking task force. And our detective, Soleil Gordon, was recently credentialed as a part-time FBI task force officer. So what that means is she has the ability to work part-time on cases. As cases come up, she can partner with federal agents from the FBI, and she can present cases to the U.S. Attorney's Office for federal prosecution. So it also gives us the opportunity to be reimbursed for some of our overtime expenses related to those cases from the federal government. So there's a lot of advantages to that. We also are able to get more specialized training for her. The FBI will help us out with that as well. So it's a really good partnership. It's not something that she's doing every day, all day long. It's one of those things that as an investigation comes up, we've got kind of a force multiplier by having those resources available to us and having the FBI available to help us do those investigations when they come up. And some of those can be particularly challenging, and especially if you've only got one detective working the case. So when we get into the other goals here, community engagement and trust, that was one of the things that I emphasized when I was applying for this job, and one of the things that that I have really emphasized since I took this position, trying to build relationships in the community and really making sure that we're connecting in ways other than just in law enforcement. We want to have a relationship with our community members, not just those who are breaking the law or those people that we have to hold accountable through arrest or whatnot, but we want to have a relationship with everybody in this community. And we've done that by hosting a number of different events, participating in different events, and just building partnerships throughout the community. And so there's a few things highlighted in there: Coffee with a Cop, the Shop with a Cop, and then our Books and Badges program, which there's a little bit more information about that program in here as well. And that, that program in particular is one that we're trying to expand on that and offer it a few more times. Staffing has been a little bit challenging the last couple of months, but it was really rewarding for us to be able to go into Bohemia Elementary and take those kids some books and have one of our officers have a story time with them in the library, read them a book, and then leave them all with a copy of that book. So The other programs that we have right now that we're working with, the Trauma Intervention Program, they provide support to us during traumatic incidents and events. We've done a lot to kind of help them build that program here in Lane County, or to grow that program. Just kind of getting the word out, and also utilizing their program. And this year, one of our officers was recognized as one of the top utilizers of that program for the 2025 year, I believe it was. We went to a banquet this past summer, so I was able to present there and talk about the TIP program, and then also be there when Officer Blaylock was given an award for utilizing those services in Lane County. So we also have a partnership with Working Dogs Oregon, which has done a tremendous amount of work for us, supporting us in our canine programs, being able to provide us, donate dogs to us, and to help us with training and things like that. So we continue that partnership with Working Dogs Oregon. We value that partnership, and we will continue to work with those folks there. So financial sustainability is another goal that we talked about. And I think in doing the, financial sustainability, the things that we look at, again, are our leadership development, our accreditation, being good stewards of our resources as well, I think is very important for us. And we do keep a close eye on the budget, pay close attention to that. I look at it often, so does Brooke. So as we're managing the finances and the business side of the police department, we're definitely keeping our eye on things and making sure that we are being good stewards of the resources that we are getting. So data-driven decisions that we're making, we're trying to do more analytical work with our data. It is challenging because we don't have like a crime analyst or any data analysts on staff. But what we're doing in putting together this report is trying to pull some of the data out that we're putting into the system on a daily basis, and then being able to share it and be transparent with the community. We do that also by sharing that out on our social media sites every week. And so, we put together that weekly update and send that out so we can keep the community informed on our activities, and just to provide a level of transparency and to share some data as well. So the next slide is our calls for service. And what we try to do in these reports is do like a kind of a 3-year look. And so if you skip ahead to page 5 in your report, it'll kind of match up to what this slide is here. And what we saw was, in 2023, the calls for service were right around 14,000. And the past 2 years, they've been right around 17,000. So one of the reasons that I think, and it's hard to kind of track why the calls for service go up in every category, but one of the things that we do know happens is there's underreporting. And also a lot of those calls for service can be self-initiated. So back in 22, 23, there were some significant staffing shortages in the police department. So when that happens, there's less time for self-initiated activity. So that's one of the things that can drive up your total number of incidents or your calls for service. The calls for service being up, in my opinion, shows a couple of things. One, that our officers are out there being proactive, and two, that the community is willing to call us and to report activities to us. So it's one of those things that is not an alarming number to see when I look at the calls for service. So when we try to look down at some of the data, and we can move to the next slide. There we go. So these are the call types, and on page 6 of your report there, we can look at these call types. So the numbers on here, when you go and look at those, there's not a lot that really jumps off the page, so to speak, but there are some things that I think are worth mentioning. Criminal mischief calls, which is vandalism, destruction of property and things like that. with your calls for service going up as much as they did, those criminal mischief calls have gone down in 23, 24, and again in 25. So a couple of years ago, we had 226 incidents reported of criminal mischief, and in 2025, we had 144. So the one, if you go down a couple lines where we look at our motor vehicle crashes, and we'll talk more about this when we get to the portion on traffic, that was something that was a bit concerning to me when I got here, and again in 2024. And I thought we would see a different number in 2024, and we didn't. We saw a significant increase. So to see that number go down in 2025, I think just kind of shows that us continuing to be proactive and traffic enforcement, traffic safety looks to be paying off. So I'm optimistic that we can kind of maintain that trend in the next couple of years. Some of the other things that we look at, our burglary calls are down significantly from 23 to 25, and our assault calls are down significantly. They ironically stayed the same in 23 and 24, and then they dropped in 25. So those things are encouraging for me to see. The drug activity is up. And I think one of the things that could be driving that is some of the changes in Oregon legislature that with the recriminalization, I guess, if you will, of hard drugs. So our officers are being proactive in seeking out drug possession and things like that. And, a lot of our officers, when they started in this profession, they haven't really known a time where user quantities of cocaine were illegal. It's a little bit odd for me to say because it wasn't that way when I started. It wasn't that way for the majority of my career. But I saw that happen, and now I saw that kind of reverse again. And I think it's important that decision was made. And, along with that comes our participation in the deflection program here in Lane County, which is one of those things that didn't exist when I was a patrol cop either. But we've seen some successes there that I think our officers can be proud of. And so we know that having that as an option has also been beneficial to us. So the last number on there, we'll get to this one again when we get to the traffic portion, because there's some things that to me are concerning with this one, which is DUI enforcement. So we'll put a placeholder on that one, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. So I want to go to the next slide. So our arrest detail. Yep.
Quick question on the calls. Do we know how many resulted in court fines or anything like that? Is there a ratio call types to enforcement?
So Mayor, Councilor Urban, as far as like diving that far into the data, we haven't done that. But the next slide, I think I'll show you the next slide, which is our arrest details. And if you go, I'll tell you, it's on the 11th page of the report that you have. So this is, I think, kind of along the lines of what you might be looking for without getting really down into the weeds on what happens when they go to court. But this is the number of arrests that we've made in the last couple of years. The reason why we don't have the 3 years of data here is just simply because there's not really enough room to put that graph together with how we want to share this data. So we only put 2 years of data in here. Most of the time throughout this report, you'll see 3 years of data. But what I think partially answers your question is, are people being held accountable? We're responding to these calls. Are we clearing these cases with an arrest? Are we arresting people and holding people accountable? And the answer to that is yes, we are. And when you look at the numbers in 2024, there were 565 adult arrests. And then you look in 2025 and there were 968. So when we talk about accountability and we talk about making arrests, those aren't all physical custody arrests, but those are clearing cases with an arrest. Those are holding people accountable either by taking them into physical custody and booking them into the Lane County Jail, or citing them in lieu of custody and requiring them to be held accountable in our municipal court here in Cottage Grove. So that is a pretty big number, and that is a pretty big jump to make in 1 year, to almost double the number of arrests that we're making. So to see that our calls for service didn't really, I think they were actually down by maybe 100, but they kind of stayed even. And to see some of the offenses in some of those person crimes like assault, to see burglaries down, but then to see that of the cases that we're taking, we nearly doubled the amount of arrests that we made. To me, that shows a positive trend that we are out there being proactive, and that we are out there working the cases that we get, and being very diligent in holding people accountable and making arrests when it's appropriate. That kind of answer your question? I know there's more to it, right? And I know it's for us, I mean, you and I have had these conversations before about data, and I love that stuff as much as you do. It's just really hard for us to get down into, because I ask those same questions of myself, right? And just kind of, I'm curious about that stuff too. It's just, unfortunately, we don't really have the mechanism or the resources to be able to dive into all of that data and then be able to present it. So, but it's something, in the future, I would like to talk with especially with our municipal court judge, and see if we can't share some of that data and maybe put together something, in the future that kind of dives down into the weeds on how, as a whole, how the criminal justice system is working in Cottage Grove, not just, the court stats and the police stats, but kind of more along the lines of the effectiveness of all of that, if that makes sense. So, okay. Next slide.
Counselor Sotomayor.
Is there, I know it says other, but is there something that characterizes word kind of
Mayor, Counselor Settlemeyer. So the stuff that you're looking at is the National Incident-Based Reporting System. I purposely left that out of the presentation tonight, and there's a couple reasons why. The system that we report that to, the numbers are not currently up to date for the entire year. So there's some asterisks next to that in your report that you see there on page 10. That's actually only 9 months worth of reporting for 2025. So we don't know what the final numbers are going to be. But as far as all other incidents in that group B, those are, without diving into those specifics, and I haven't done that until we get all of the numbers to kind of look at that. Those are going to be just some of the things that are more of the proactive stuff that our police officers are doing, and things that may have been underreported in the past. Those are some of your lower level offenses. Those aren't, the group B is not up there with the group A. So I try to focus on the group A stuff for the most part, because those are the more serious offenses. The group B stuff can be anything from, when you look down there, it could be anything from, littering to trespassing or things of that nature. So it's all of those things. So, and when you look down there and you see in the NIBRS reporting that it's showing a 0 for the year in trespass. And that doesn't really line up with the numbers that we have in our records management system and in our CAD system. So There's some challenges with looking at that 2025 number. One, because they've already told us that there's some issues with their reporting and they haven't got the year-to-date numbers yet. So, and I'm not convinced that these are 100% accurate at this point. So that's why there's the kind of the caveat in there that that these are not up to date. So my plan is to stay on top of this and to try to report it out like we have the last couple of years. We've given the full year's worth of data, but we didn't want to just leave it out and leave those pages blank, because it is one of those things where the National Incident-Based Reporting System is something that's online, and community members can go and look at that. And so we didn't want to appear like we're trying to not put that in there. It's just I didn't really want to get into a big conversation about it tonight, because I'm not sure of 100% sure of the accuracy with those numbers yet. And so once that comes out, we can do a deeper dive into all of that. And if there's questions later on, our plan is to kind of update this and put out an updated version of this once those numbers become available to us. And then I would be more than happy to meet with you or to have a conversation about it, to go over it. Because, I'm gonna do it as well, right? I'm gonna look at it and I want to be able to go through those numbers as well and feel confident about them. So, but that is why it's not in the PowerPoint presentation. So if you're wondering why I skipped over it, that's why. So I just want to be really careful about what I put out there, that we're being as accurate as possible. So.
Counselor Lammerman.
Madam Mayor, kind of loud, sorry. Council Chief Chase. Can I ask why the numbers aren't updated yet, being that we're almost into the third month of 2026?
Mayor, Councilor Lammerman, I don't know. It's not our system. So it's the federal government's incident reporting system. So it's not our system. And so something beyond our control.
So you guys don't input any of that information in there? They just gather that on their own whim?
We have a reporting program that reports data to them, but how they collate it and how they report it out, they handle all of that information. So we send them things based on their coding, and then they take those numbers and report them back out. So. Right. So the next slide is our child abuse cases, and these are something that our most vulnerable population in our community are our kids. And so what we're sharing here is the numbers that we get. I don't know that there's any direct correlation to something we're doing differently to see that the drop in those number of cases, but those cases are reported to us in a couple of different ways. They can come to us through the Department of Human Services, through Child Protective Services, and we do get those reports regularly, sometimes more than one a day. And those reports come into us. Each one of those is assigned out to a police officer for them to do an initial investigation. If there's no criminal element to the case, sometimes those can be cleared and closed, and they're handled through Child Protective Services. It's more of a cross report to us as an informational report. If there is a criminal element to those cases, then we take a report and open the investigation. And a lot of times those are what end up going to our detectives. So the bulk of the child abuse or the bulk of the caseload for our detective is child abuse cases and other major person felonies. So these are the numbers. This is what it looks like month to month. And this is something that does take a significant amount of time, not just for the detective, but also for our patrol officers. So when these come in, if one comes in, some point during the shift, it's going to take a while for them to work through this and then close it out. So if that happens during their shift that day, there's not a lot of time for them to do other things, proactive law enforcement, traffic, and things like that. So sometimes these can take quite a bit of resources from patrol. So, and it takes quite a bit of time for our detective to work all of these cases. So.
Counselor Merriday.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief Chase, so when we say child abuse, does that include neglect and unsafe conditions at home?
Yeah. So Mayor, Councilor Merriday, yes, that does include neglect. That is one of the categories that's reported to us. And a lot of times when we get those reports, we get a cross report from Child Protective Services. Sometimes it is for neglect or unsafe conditions in the home. And what our officers will do, they take that. Sometimes they partner with one of the caseworkers from Child Protective Services, or sometimes it's just our officers go, but they go and look at the home and make sure that it's safe, and then they can document what they see. And if there's something criminal to that, then they can start the criminal investigation. Yep.
Counselor Sotomayor.
Council Settermeyer, I'm not sure which one are you looking at there? So the cases in Group A are not broken down by age. So when you look at forcible rape, sex crimes, simple assault, things like that, those are inclusive of all of them. So.
Counselor Wilson.
Noticed a trend of a significant increase in suicide threat or attempt on your call types. Is that mostly due to more reporting, you think, or is that actually a?
So Mayor, Councilor Wilson, when we look at that, it's a threat or an attempt. The root of that or the why, I'm not sure. I mean, I think there probably is more reporting that is happening. I also think that untreated mental health issues are a significant issue that we face, not just here in Cottage Grove, but everywhere. So, and when we do have untreated mental health and mental illness, behavioral health issues, I do think a lot of that leads to attempts or threats of suicide. So, and the fact that, that those are being reported, that our officers are responding to those, I think we're being as proactive as we can, and I think that we're responding appropriately to those.
I was thinking it might have something to do with the community outreach, that there's more of a presence in the community and more of a relationship type of.
I think that
by the officers
that certainly helps with
the
reporting and folks feeling comfortable calling and knowing that there's resources out there. So, and reaching out to our police department in particular to help with those cases.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so traffic stop data. Again, one of the things that was talked about when I got here was traffic safety. One of the things that I wanted to emphasize was traffic safety. I had a few discussions with our municipal court judge, who also hears our traffic court here in Cottage Grove. Just looking at where the numbers were and what they had been in years past. And so one of the numbers, if you, in our traffic stop data, that we talked about was our crashes. And so our traffic stops have gone up, and that has been an emphasis for us. And one of the reasons for that, is going to be attributed to having better staffing levels. So when we have more staff, it allows us to be more proactive and to do traffic safety enforcement. And it also is a credit to our police officers that are out there for kind of buying into the message of traffic safety is important, and them understanding that it is a priority of ours as a police department to be out there doing traffic safety enforcement. So the numbers have increased significantly in the last 3 years. So, and slide. So here's some more numbers in the traffic enforcement, traffic safety data. Looking at, again, the traffic stops and the citations. Those are up significantly over the last 3 years. There's a trend up. The crashes this year, I was happy to see went down because there was a significant increase from 23 to 24, even though we had done a better job of doing traffic enforcement. So I think, just kind of being diligent and sticking with it and continuing to increase our efforts in traffic safety, we were able to see this year a decrease in traffic crashes. The one area to me that shows that we definitely have an area of opportunity and an emphasis that we can improve upon is the DUI enforcement. And when we go back to the call types and we look at our calls for service for the year, one of the numbers that kind of jumped off the page was the increase in suspected DUI or reports of DUI drivers. And that was up significantly, which means that, again, I think the reporting is there. And those can be people calling in and reporting what they're seeing on the street. It can be our officers being proactive, but it's not correlating to actual arrests of DUI drivers. And so there could be a number of factors there. So one of the things that I want to emphasize in the coming year is better training when it comes to DUI enforcement, making sure that our officers have refreshers on the standardized field sobriety testing, how to recognize signs of impairment and things of that nature. And then also just making sure that they're able to work through those DUI investigations and get them to prosecution and arrest people for DUI. So I think that's something that we'll work on in 26 and hope to see some improvement in 2026 in those actual DUI arrest numbers, because I think the cases are there. So training, that's something that has been an emphasis of ours in 2025 and continues to be an emphasis of ours as we move into 2026. One of the things that happens when we have the staffing levels that we had in 23 and late 22, it's all we can do to kind of keep the doors open, so to speak. So, and now we've had to get, really get intentional about making sure that we're providing the right amount of training and that we're emphasizing the proper training throughout the year. We have minimum staffing or minimum training hours that we have to get to maintain certifications through DPSST. But we've really kind of worked on putting together some really meaningful training, important training that we needed to do beyond just some of the basics. And as we move into 2026, we're already doing that again. And so we're working on some of our state required training right now in use of force and firearms, our firearms training, and then looking at getting some new tools out there on the street for our officers, and then also putting together kind of a plan for what we want to do for the rest of the year. And so, you know, you can see from the numbers in here, you know, at just the, you know, the total hours there is 2,000 hours. A lot of that is time spent at the academy and our regular canine training hours. But we are able to meet all of our minimum requirements. But in addition to that, you can see in some of the pictures that we've done, you know, some other things with defensive tactics, and we partnered with the regional instructors from DPSST and had them come down and put on some use of force training, some defensive tactics training for our officers to kind of give them some of the latest tactics and techniques that they're teaching at the academy. So, and then there's a picture down here in the bottom left corner, and that is our two firearms instructors, Sergeant Brandstetter and Officer Callahan. And the other person in that picture is one of the lead instructors for the firearms program with the Portland Police Bureau. And so as we were working on our handgun transition and to a new optic system and on our firearms, I reached out to the Portland Police Bureau and talked to them about their training and their program and the curriculum that they put together. And they offered our officers the opportunity to come up there, our instructors the opportunity to come up there and train with them for free. So it was something that we were able to do rather than send them to an extremely expensive class and teach them. The gentleman in that picture has put together probably some of the better training in the country. And a lot of people are looking to him as a subject matter expert on this particular system that we're using. So they graciously offered the opportunity for our officers to come up there, our instructors to come up there and see one of their training classes and to look at their curriculum and see how they train and bring back some of what they learned to our department. So very valuable partnership, and we were definitely grateful to the Portland Police Bureau for extending that invitation to us as well. All right, so community engagement. One of the things, again, that we talked about is building those relationships and the importance of having those relationships in the community, making sure that people see us as being members of this community, being people that they know and are comfortable with, and that they are willing to report incidents to, and then also partnering with different businesses and different community stakeholders to support our law enforcement efforts here in Cottage Grove. So these are some of the pictures, and there's quite a few slides up here. So one of the things that I will say is that some of these events, you know, happen on my day off or the officer's day off. They prioritize these because they enjoy spending time with the community in a way that's different than their normal interactions as just a law enforcement officer. And they also recognize the importance of building these relationships. So we can go on to the next slide. So, you know, here's more of the stuff that we participated in. You know, the Spirit of Bohemia Mining Days parade. It was really important for us to be able to engage in that. And, you know, the first year I was here, it was kind of whether or not it was going to happen. And then we had this group come forward, and there was a lot of last minute planning. And this year, you know, we were able to get out there and be part of it again. And you know, we plan to continue to help support that in every way we can, because it's an important event for this community. The Wings and Wheels event. Just about any time there's an event here in Cottage Grove, you're going to see the police department there supporting it and interacting with the folks that are part of it. So the Heroes with Heart dinner, that was an opportunity for me to speak at that event. I was asked by the director of TIP Lane County to come and talk about my experience with that program and the importance of it, and kind of share with the folks that were there why it's important to law enforcement. So myself and Chief Resch from Springfield PD were the two of the guest speakers that night. So that was a great opportunity to get out there as well. And then the movie night at the firehouse, we always get invited to go do that. And we love to go over there and hang out with our friends at the fire department. So, you know, we come out and get to spend time with them and interact with the community over there as well. So it's hard to compete with the firefighters though. So everybody loves the fire department. Next slide. Again, some of the things that we support, the Breast Cancer Awareness Month. These are all things that we can do just to kind of show some support in our community and kind of humanize the badge. So we kind of we wear pink throughout the month and just kind of show our support for that cause. Picture in the top left, myself and Sergeant Carlton at the football game. And again, you know, a lot of these things that we do, we come in and spend our time, you know, that normally would be maybe off duty, but we want to be here and spend our time engaged with the community. We get invited to participate in a lot of things. And, you know, sometimes it's easy to just say, well, no, it's my day off but you know, we end up having so much fun doing it. The picture in the middle is one that I really like, is the VFW car show. And that was one that's not even in the city of Cottage Grove. It's actually, we got an invite, and when the gentleman in the middle there called me and said, hey, we know we're just outside the city limits, but you're our police department, right? And that was on a Saturday afternoon. And they said, hey, would you be willing to come down here to our car show and hang out with us? And I said, absolutely, you know, and I love going to car shows anyway. So, you know, we shined up our patrol cars and we went down there, and I got to hang out with a bunch of guys at the VFW and look at cars. So it was a lot of fun, and we had a good time that day. So our Halloween event, which is probably my favorite here in Cottage Grove. So Halloween's probably one of my favorite holidays. And when I got here, everybody told me, oh, wait till you see what the Halloween event was like. And the first year I was here, I had no idea what that was going to be like. And it was nothing I've seen before in any other community. So definitely we take the cake there. So it's a ton of fun. So the Shop with a Cop event, in one of the previous pictures, there was the Walmart grand reopening. And at that grand reopening this year, we were presented with a significant donation from Walmart, and it was a big increase over previous years. One of the reasons why we got that is the turnout that you see there in that Shop with a Cop picture. Our department comes out, everybody in the department, it's kind of all hands on deck to make that happen. So, you know, we come out and shop with the kids, and the families come out as well. There's people missing from that picture that aren't in there. So as many people as you see there, there were other family members. So it's not just people who work at the police department. Their family members come in to help with the wrapping and kind of managing the day. So there's a lot that goes on with checking the kids in and also helping to wrap the gifts and everything while the officers are out shopping. So it's a big event for us. The biggest one that we put on or that we're a part of throughout the year. It's definitely the biggest one for us. So, but it's extremely rewarding. And again, it's another opportunity. There's so many people throughout that day. We get more thank yous than we do probably any other day of the year when we're there at Walmart. So, and people just wanting to, I mean, we go out and we pre-shop for the shoppers. So that's the day that the kids come in and shop for their families. Well, the kids that are the shoppers, they get gifts as well, but it's usually me, Brooke, a couple other people on the department. About a week or two before, we've got the shopping list for the shoppers. So we go out and do the shopping. And we had probably 3 or 4 people walk up to us and say, hey, can we give you some money to donate to this program? So, you know, we thanked them, but, you know, we explained to them how the program works and the donation we get from Walmart. But they loved the idea of it. They thought it was great. And they really wanted to thank us and then find out how they could support us as well. So that's kind of the end of the presentation of the slideshow. These are all of the ways, you know, we add that in there. We have a pretty good social media presence, and Brooke does a really good job of managing our social media accounts and posting information that's relevant to the community. So, you know, we have a couple of different Facebook and Instagram are our two big platforms. So we encourage everybody, if you're not following us on Facebook or Instagram, to jump on there and keep up with what's going on with CGPD.
Thank you, Chief. Do we have any questions? Counselor Merida.
Thank you, Mayor. So in the time when the staffing was short in the department, I believe you described it as running on fumes. And so I was just wondering, where are we at on the personnel's ability to cover shifts without the burnout?
Well, Mayor, Councilor Merida, right now it's not great. And there's challenges still with filling all of our shifts. And the reason for that is when we look at what we're budgeted for and what our staffing is, we've kind of hit the perfect storm recently. And what I say is that life happens. So even when those positions on paper are filled, or we have those people in the department, right now we have one in training. We have another officer who's on a modified duty assignment. We have another officer who's out on an extended medical leave, and we have 2 vacancies. So that leaves us with about 5 officers to work patrol. So right now, our sergeants are covering patrol shifts, and then, during the day shift, which it's busier during day shift. It's not, it's busier with just kind of those all day long calls that we go to. And so there's days where myself or the captain are jumping in and helping out with the call load as well during the day. So it is still a challenge for us at full staffing. We're not quite at the level, even if we were fully staffed and everybody was in the door, to still be able to honor vacation time, or to send officers to training and things like that, or court time and sick calls, just everything that comes up. And then, as we are seeing right now, we just have circumstances where officers aren't on the patrol schedule. So it does make it challenging for us. But from where we were when I got here in 23, we're definitely a lot more comfortable than we were back then.
Else?
Good evening, Your Honor, and members of the council. This report and the accreditation is a phenomenal amount of work that it represents by Brooke. And I just want to take the opportunity to publicly thank you for all that you do and for the department. You would say you do it behind the scenes, but the truth is that it reflects on daily activities in the department. So thank you.
All right, we really appreciate that.
Yep.
All right, we do not have anyone signed up to speak tonight, and we have no public hearings. Consent agenda. Councilor Urban.
Move the council approve the consent agenda as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion with a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Absolutely.
Bad boys. Madam Mayor, Council, so quick question in the consent agenda, it had the new liquor license for Jackson's. It says that's at 926 East Main, which is also the Cottage Grove Public Market. Is that a food truck or is that a separate business in there?
Ms. Roberts.
Thank you, Mayor, Councilor Lammerman. So it is going to be his location where he serves. It's my understanding in the public market, it's composed of a lot of different businesses within the location. So I'm not sure whether it's a food truck. I'd have to look at it a little bit closer to see if it says mobile, but that would be the address where he would be serving.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Wilson.
Just a point on the meeting minutes for February 9th. It has present in council chambers, that everybody was here within the chambers, and I don't think that's actually accurate. I don't think, because Jim was in Australia, if I remember right. That's a little ways away from council chambers, but I mean, you were present, you just weren't. So it wasn't physically present within the chambers, and there's a category for present via Zoom. And I believe you were not here as well. So not that matters a great deal, but I don't know if that's.
Mayor, Counselor Wilson, I can make that change to the minutes before the mayor actually signs them. But I would like the maker of the motion and the second to recognize that change.
Thank you, Mayor. I recognize that change. I heard Councilor Settlemeyer on Zoom, but there was one other.
It was the February 9th meeting. Councilor Settlemeyer was on Zoom, as well as Councilor Hank, I believe.
Councilor Hank, okay.
Zoom as well.
So with Councilor Settlemeyer and Councilor Hank listed under present via Zoom webinar on the February 9th meetings.
And as the second counselor, I acknowledge that change as well.
Thank you. Resolutions and ordinances. Do you need me to go to a vote again? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Resolutions and ordinances. There are none. Concerns from council. Counselor Merryday.
A constituent brought forth a request or a report to me on the conditions of the bike trail, stating that they have noticed that there's cracking occurring along the trail, that it will continue to deteriorate, and there's a buildup of moss and other things. I did explain that we've lost the support of BLM due to staff shortages, and I'm not sure what we could be able to do, but their contention was that as we seek to be a tourist destination, if we lose the infrastructure, the bike trail, we will cease to have one of our crown jewels in attracting visitors. So I don't know what we can do with our limited staff and financial resources and the diminished support of BLM, but I did want to bring that concern to the council.
Anyone else? Counselor Irvin.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to kind of refloat an idea for consideration as we move into budget season of engaging with the Cottage Grove Community Foundation Board in problem solving, potentially in community engagement for various things that are funded and supported primarily by the city that may be up for reconsideration. Along those lines, I had considered even the skate park fund that we have. I know there's some discussion probably with the foundation that supported that, but if we have to back burner certain things, to have them bearing the monies reserved for them and that's been raised, working for us in the meantime. But things like, pool support, thinking of library services, if we have to reimagine a model, endowments, that folks in the community can connect and donate to, may become the vehicles that continue the services that we need. So I just wanted to open that conversation up, and as people are having conversations in the community, know that we do have a foundation that receives donations with tax advantage, and that can allow money to grow. Right now, give a number of grants away each year within the community to nonprofits. I think around 20,000 in grants on that, and a couple $100,000 in scholarships for students. So it's grown a lot over the years, and I think it just wanted to promote that as an option for consideration as we. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Counselor Wilson.
Just curious on, haven't seen much movement in the BMX track. Any continued work on that recently? Seems to have stalled. I was just wondering if we can get some community input at some point as to where that is. They were pretty active for a while, and now it seems to have stalled out a little bit. It might just be the weather that's causing the problem, but just curious if anybody's
Mr.
heard
Sauerland.
anything.
Mayor, council, we can certainly look into that and report back to the council.
Mr. Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilor Wilson. They are currently working on trying to get the power connected. They've applied for permits. They are trying to continue to make improvements. But as you said, the weather in the middle of the winter, they're to the point where they need to fine grade and apply, I think, material to the track. So they are continuing to move forward. It's just weather related, I believe, is the biggest standstill right now.
Thank you, Director Stewart. All right, report from the city manager.
Well, good evening, Your Honor, and members of the council. Keeping in the spirit of keeping this meeting short. Couple of items I wanted to make sure I mentioned is the LCOG dinner is going to be at the Armory on Friday, March 6th, and the Chamber Awards banquet is going to be at the Armory on Saturday, March 21st. So I encourage council members to attend both of those. And if you're interested, please speak with the city recorder. That would conclude my report.
Thank you. We have no city attorney tonight and no items removed from the consent agenda. So we are adjourned.